Hey, and welcome to Cool as a Cucumber Psychology Podcast channel. I'm Dr. R, your licensed therapist, straight out of your favorite country, Mexico. Hope that you guys stay tuned as I interview Novella from Novi's Corner, and we're going to talk about what it is to have a Black therapist abroad.
I have a passion for cooking, and I also have a passion for motivating women. So I said, why don't I combine the both of them together, and we cook and chat. We'll talk about things dealing with life, and some with traveling a bit abroad, and just grow together.
Perfect.
That's the whole purpose of it.
That's great. I love to see us out in the world doing great things. Love to see that. Love to see it. So let's jump right in because people lose focus fast. What's the importance for you to have a Black therapist? What were you thinking about when you were on the search? And what advice would you like to share with the viewers?
Honestly, for me, I needed somebody that looked like me, and not just look like me, understand me. Most of my therapists before, and I've been having therapy for years, have been of Caucasian. And though that they're good at what they do, they're not good technically for me because it was more of the books. Let's go by the book. Let me diagnose you and keep it moving and give you some pills. But I needed somebody. I was looking for somebody that looked like me, understood me, and this time around actually lived abroad. That was important because then they really would understand the struggles or the concerns that I would have, and they would help me succeed. So that was important for me this time around.
Well, that's great. It's very important that I feel that you find therapists who look like you and definitely align with what you want. As a therapist who has a therapist, I've noticed that I too cannot just use an African American therapist from the States because they still don't really understand what it is to be outside of things that you can't just recommend to do or to eat or to try because it's not in access to you. Absolutely.
And that's important, especially when you're going abroad, be it your first time, your second time, or how many times. There are struggles, and I wouldn't necessarily say struggles. There are lessons, there are things mentally that you need to prepare yourself for that you might not necessarily have to prepare for when you have a therapist in the States. And I'm not knocking them or what have you, but in order to grow, you need to be with somebody who gets it. It's important. It's important. If I called my therapist that has never traveled abroad or lived abroad and I told her, hey, I'm going through some culture shock here, she's not going to understand, especially for somebody like me in Africa, because you can't say, oh, it's, of a different persuasion again. No, these people look like me. And so I need somebody that understands, culture shock, not being stuck in a house because you don't know how to adapt. So those things that, again, only a person, in my opinion, and from my experience, only a therapist that actually has been there, done that, and experiencing that can really help you in that area.
Absolutely. I second that. And since you've been in therapy with me now, what can you say has been the difference or has opened your eyes? What can you say has been your experience thus far?
Child.
Ooh, you make it sound like I am horrible. Ooh, I make you see it.
Definitely not horrible. I always say that Rakia is a gift. That someone who I don't even speak to anymore led me to her. She is definitely a destiny helper now. She is a no bullshitter. Now, the other ones allow me, to sit in my stuff for a while. She does not allow that. What I've gotten thus far, I think we've been in therapy now almost 6 months since my sobriety. I've got sober and stayed sober since therapy. She has allowed me and shown me some things as far as even moving abroad that I did not know that I even had struggles with. What is it? CPTSD?
Yes.
I had no idea that I suffered from it. I knew I suffered from something when it came to that, but I didn't have a name for it. She's been gentle. Like, okay, we need to work on these things before you make this move this time around. And we don't just, touch it a little bit. We really get down to it. I've grown, and I'm not just saying that. I know internally and externally I've grown. I have a desire now for my next move to do it right. Life is going to happen, but this time I'll have the tools to use when life happens. And she makes sure that she sincerely makes sure that she's like a little mama bear.
That's great. I think that it's important that you find good people when moving abroad who don't have hidden agendas because they're stable of where they are. So you can I guess it all boils down to you run into people who got 6 months on the ground and they're just so transient. And here they are wanting to give you advice, and they don't really understand mental health because that's not their area. So they're just really selling you on an idea that they like. Not even that they're passionate about, not even that is something that you're like, oh, this is forever for me. And I think that's very important that we learn to gel with people when we move that are stable, planted, trees, trunks, and just rooted in, so that we can talk to them about the things that are going to happen. And we don't have that thing where they put you in flight mode, like, oh, I'm about to leave, you should leave too. Instead of facing in and being like, oh, well, this is what it is around here. So you got to master this so that you can be great.
And also, I think, and this is no knock because I've been one of those, when you're looking for someone, make sure they do have some time. There are a lot of people that's out there now writing books, ebooks and stuff about culture shock or living abroad, and they've only been there 6-9 months. I know some personally. Rakia's been in Mexico, 20 plus years?
It's about to be 22 years on the 20th of January.
Jesus. If I make it after a year, I'm doing good. So my point is, you want to, she's a gem. You want to have somebody like that. Not be clingy, but be open and willing to hear what she has to say, because basically she's like a pioneer. And that's what she's taught me. Hey, these are the mistakes I've made. You don't have to make the mistakes. I'm not being bossy with you, but I'm just showing you, especially in Mexico. And a lot of stuff that applies there is applicable to whatever country you want to move to. Get somebody that's been there. I would say, technically, me personally, they need to be there 3+ years, actually really 5 or more, because they've really, they did the ups and downs. They paved the way for you.
Yes.
So, yeah.
One of the rules of thumb that I always say is they have to do a presidential term.
That's good.
If they don't do a presidential term, I just can't take you serious, because especially in a place like Latin America, every president changes something dramatically or impressively for the people. And I know in Mexico, I've been under Calderon, Peña Nieto, AMLO, and now Claudia. 4 presidents, because they are here for 6 years. We have 6-year presidents. So not 4. And each president has turned this country inside out, attacked some area that generally trickled down and affected the lowest point to the highest point on the totem pole. And I think that's super important. If you're asking somebody for advice and they haven't been there a presidential term, they can't really tell you much.
Yeah, I agree.
They can't tell you much.
I agree.
Yeah, they can tell you about their experience. And I think that's what people are getting comfortable with, and they don't really identify it as what it is. You're telling me about your experience. You're not telling me about the country.
Bingo.
No, you're telling me about your experience, which is fine, but it really doesn't have much to do with the culture or the country. It's the person that you ran into that made it bad. It's the attitude that you were up against that made it good or bad. It has nothing to do with if the country is ran this way and what should I be looking out for, because 9 times out of 10 I'm not going to run into the same people that you had your experience with. So I need to know the country norm and nuances so that I function adequately and I'm just not surfacing with my ending.
Also, you want someone that's not just living there, that has really truly immersed yourself into the culture. Moving forward for me, what I look for now is, do you have a home there? Because now you could tell me about the buying process as a foreigner. Do you speak the local language? Because it does no good for the blind to be leading the blind. You try to teach me something and we don't even speak the language, so that's important. Do you understand the currency? And a big one that's even better for me is that you own a business there, because then again, you can give me the ups and downs. You don't want to be in a position where it's the blind leading the blind, and I've been on both ends of that in other countries. Get somebody that is emulating the life that you want to live in that country. And I'm saying that out of sincerity. And it's not that you're worshiping them. It's not that they've done bad things and made mistakes. That's why you want to follow them, because they've done those things. And then they don't have malicious intent. Now, some people out there charging you an arm and a leg to give you 15 minutes. You don't want that. You want somebody that's living, breathing, and eating it. And I've seen it with Rakia. I've seen it. I've seen it with a family. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I never thought about that. Like, even as an expat coach and therapist, I'm like, what do I bring to the table? I can only give you me. I can only talk to you about what I've done and then show you what I've done so that you can repeat it. And that's really understanding what is the baseline of Mexico. Not my experience, because I mean, good or bad, I'm like, hey, Mexico's Rome, so you need to do this like this. You know, you got to really understand, and just it's really hard to bring people in and get them to understand that they have to decolonize their brain first, and then you'll be open to understanding how things roll in other countries. I'm finding it's as I'm surfing the web and on these channels, Facebook and stuff, I'm seeing everybody's, thinking about Mexico or Panama or Costa Rica. And you're absolutely right about one thing. Their Spanish be 0 to none. Or they think because they grew up in New York and they hung out with Dominicans, they ready to speak Spanish all around the world now, And I'm like, you can't walk into Mexico talking about comprende, because you might have to put these hands to work.
I'm laughing because I was one of those. What did I tell you when I first got with you? Oh, Mexico be easy because I learned Spanish. I know Spanish. And baby, taking these Spanish classes, my Spanish compared to the proper Spanish, yeah, it's not the same. You end up saying something that you didn't mean to say and get the side eye. So, yeah, it is important. It's not saying that you can't get by, but why would you want to live in a country and their primary language is not English and then expect them to speak it? That's kind of rude.
Absolutely. Or, when are we going to get out of survival mode and start thriving?
Oh, that's good.
And the only way you can get out of survival is to truly understand the language, because you're not fighting for your life to order food. You're not fighting for your life to get your water bottles. You're not automatically causing more trauma to your nervous system because, oh man, I got to get up, I got to go downstairs, I got to go outside, I got to face the public, and the only thing I got is hola, ¿cómo estás? And because I've mastered hola, ¿cómo estás, the people think that I speak Spanish, and then they start going in their language. They take off, and now I'm standing out here like, hold up, that's all I got,
Exactly.
So,
And it's good that you said trauma, because it does. That little time that I was there, I didn't necessarily have trauma because I was with you the bulk of the time. But it was the holding the breath and, okay, I want to order something off of Rappi, but God, what if they say something to me, or I need to describe something and I don't know? And then it gets you to where I'm just not going to order anything, and then you're starving. So then you got that, and then the next thing you want to say is, well, Mexico wasn't for me because they didn't have the food I wanted and I couldn't really order the food. No, it's because you didn't take the time to learn the language.
exactly.
So we have a habit of blaming the country when a lot of the times we are the issue.
Absolutely. I second that wholeheartedly. Like, the best way to be at your top in Mexico is to get your language under control and understand your financial budget. If you don't have those two things, you might as well get on the Titanic and ride it till the wheels fall off, because that's what's gonna happen to you. You just gonna be going down, down, down. You know, a lot of people talk about finances like, oh, Mexico's cheap. No, Mexico is not cheap. It's not cheap at all. It's less expensive than some areas in the United States. Some parts of Mexico are. But it can definitely be more expensive than some areas in the United States as well. And just getting your feet wet, getting a place to lay your head so that you can start to decompress your nervous system can just literally take your nervous system out. Because you've never had to put down 2, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months rent. You know, you never had to do that. And you, especially if you're a person who has decent credit in your home country, you've never been asked to go the extra mile because you've already did the extra mile with your credit work. But now you got to run the mile, complete in the Olympics, and almost donate blood just to get a safe place to put your head. And I don't think people talk about that enough. Like, one of the things that's super stressful when moving here with not having somebody to help you get through the system is putting down the deposit, the double deposit. Now, because of people just walking away, leaving the houses ruined, some realtors or homeowners are asking for up to 6 months. Up to 6 months. And so here you are, you don't speak the language, so you can't negotiate. You don't want to pay a translator to be on your team, so now you don't have anybody to talk for you. In the house of your dreams, because you know you've been in Huxtable land thinking, I'm moving abroad, so I'm about to pop off. So you planning on getting this immaculate house, and the owner is like, oh, so you want to be in here front, and let me charge you right quick.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you know, those things play a major role. And then people don't even understand a part of your trauma with moving abroad is just not being prepared.
Yeah.
It's just not being prepared. You can't just pack up your suitcase and hit the road, Jack, and then expect for things to go your way. You must understand how things function in that country.
Yes. And see, that again is a plus this time around for me, because I've done this, 1, 2, 3, 4 times now. It's now I have the confidence of knowing that I have a team. And I'm willing to pay for that. They say you can't put a price tag on peace. And Novella ain't getting ready to go through anything unnecessary. Am I going to have life out there? Yes. But now I have someone who I trust, who has my best interest in mind, who's going to, even on down to the house hunting. Rakia sends me pictures of houses, and, you know, I can go in virtually and see and give her an idea of what I want. Because you have to realize out there, a lot of people say they're realtors, but they're not. You know, so you got that to deal with. I just don't want to deal with no unnecessary things. And I'm telling you guys, that will be trauma in itself. Once you get done with all that, you're not going to want to live there because you're stressed out just trying to find a place to live. And it does. I'm telling you, that's old saying when they say, get you a local. that you can trust. And Rakia's a local, honey. She's been there 20-something years, so I don't even put her as American no more. She is a local. And there's things that you don't know what you're going to come across. Setting up your utilities and stuff is not the same as it is here. So I just would highly recommend, for your own peace of mind, to reach out to Rakia. And I'm not saying that because I'm on here. I'm saying that because I've done it. I've lived in Africa for 7 years, and it's my first time moving to Merida. And to be honest with you, there was many times I said I wasn't going to do it. And she was there to make me understand on my own what my why was. And then let's process this and let us do this in decent in order so you don't have to have that same trauma this time around. And honestly, it's been better. It's actually been really good.
That's good to know. And you mentioned something that's very important, I think, that we should reiterate. Knowing your why. Why are you moving? And then from the why, what are you expecting? And then from there, how do you expect to do it? You must have goals with moving abroad. And right now, with the political standpoint of the United States and Mexico, it's super important that we understand that the North American continent is we not doing so well. So we got to understand, if we're running from the United States because of who's in political power right now and who's going to be in political power in 2025, you must understand that there's going to be some backlashes when you move into Mexico. Not immigrants. I don't think it's going to go down the immigrant way, but backlashes, like you're not going to be able to get the products that you're so accustomed to having. So you got to be open to trying what Mexico has to offer, because every country at this point is trying to get the people to understand how good their home country is, what you have to offer. And I think that as Americans come in, or as foreigners come in, I don't want to just locally as Americans, but as foreigners come into Mexico, it's super important that we talk more about other products besides fruit and vegetables. I always see people like, oh, I went to the market today. And I'm just like, Mexico does more than fruit and vegetables. Because to keep it a buck, a lot of fruit and vegetables in Merida are imported anyway because there's no farms because of the heat. So you're you're just really eating the same seedless oranges from Florida. But let's talk about what's really out here. Like, have you tried the bread? That's, the grains come from Europe, but the rest of the process is here. Have you gotten accustomed to the sugar? Because a lot of people don't even understand that our sugar is completely different. It doesn't wreak as bad of a havoc on your body as processed bleached sugar. So there's just things I'm just like, and let's get out of the food department. What are you doing for your investing? You know what I'm saying? What are you doing that allows you to see the greatness of the country besides the farmer's market? That kills me every time I see it. Well, what do you like about Mexico? The fresh food. And I'm like, you do know that it's a Granny Smith apple.
That is true. And I noticed that actually in other countries too. It is the fruits and the veggies. Now, not to knock them, but there's so much more. And it's sad if you say the only reason why you moved was the fruits and the vegetables. And something you tell me outside of that is, remember that when you move, you're still moving with you.
Yes.
So if you have some internal issues, I would highly recommend an expert coach or a therapist so that when you move with you, you can deal with you, therefore that you'll be able to deal with the country you're in. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of times we think, oh, we're going to go out there and we're going to learn on our own, and experience is the best teacher. That it is. Life is going to give us lessons. But why go through something unnecessarily when you got somebody there who says, here, I'm going to wholeheartedly help you. Yes, there's a price for it because nothing in life is free. But I'm going to go beyond, above and beyond what you're paying. And you're going to be able to lay down at night and not be traumatized by even the geckos on the walls. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Because we're going to work through those phobias because you'll realize they in there doing the cleanup that you can't do. 1. 2. When you started your journey, I have a question. When you started your journey to move abroad before Mexico, had you even been exposed to expat coaching or therapy?
No, ma'am. There was no, ma'am. I'm going to be real honest, and again, people going to be like, oh, you're just saying that. No. What I was exposed to, somebody said, hey, if you pay me X amount of money, I'll do a phone call with you for an hour before you make this move. That was it. That was all. I ain't never even heard of expat coaching before now because I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing, and I'm being very honest. In my ignorance, I didn't know it was a thing because the people that I knew that was doing it was, let me sell you a book and let me give you an hour of this. That was it. That was all. Mm-hmm. So no. Had I known, would have done things different? Yes, but those are lessons, and I wouldn't be here to know that I need coaching and therapy had I not went through that. Yeah. So I don't regret it, but I won't do it again.
I know that's right. And I asked you because when I went through my expat coaching with Procter & Gamble, I didn't know it was a thing either. I didn't know it was a thing either. And I was like, let me take my nosy self in here and see what certification this is. You know me and my constant need to expand. And when I realized that companies prepare their workers to move abroad.
Yes, they do.
You see what I'm saying? And I realized that how important it is for your mental health, for your company to move you abroad. They invest in that for you.
I forgot about that.
And then here we go, no company, no nothing, just grabbing the word expat instead of immigrant, even though we're very much moving as immigrants.
Thank you. Glad you said that.
Yeah, I was like, maybe that's the thing. You don't know, not you personally, but they don't know, about expat coaching because they're not moving as expats, they're moving as immigrants. And they're just literally jumping border to border, state or country to country, falling in, trying to figure it out. But if you truly want to be an expat, you make the investment so you understand how to be successful in that area. Mentally, physically, and emotionally. And then when you have those things together, the next goal will be financially successful. And that is that. So I do want to thank you. I'm going to pull it to an end because I don't want people to be like, oh, this conversation going forever, because it can. I do thank you guys for tuning in. Novi, I thank you for joining me on my first podcast. I am going to ask you to send me your handles on social media so people can reach you and see what's going on, because Novi's a great cook, y'all. I'm talking about these recipes be bumping. So if you're one of those people who have to eat with your eyes and then go try it yourself, Novi's Corner is where you need to be.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much for tuning in. Ciao. Until next time.